Hello everyone. Tonight we begin with a scream that isn't yours, but it might as well be. You're standing in the heart of Tenochtitlan, 1519. The air thick with the coppery tang of blood and the sweet burn of copal incense. The pyramid looms before you, its steps slick with crimson, and above, the priests chant, a low, guttural hum that vibrates in your chest like a warning. You're not here by choice, but by some cruel twist of fate. Your feet are planted in this city of canals and sacrifice, where the gods are as hungry as the people are devout. Why are you terrified? Because the Aztecs don't just live for today, they live for what comes after. And that afterlife is a maze of blades, shadows, and choices you're not ready to make. So, pull your blanket tighter, dim the lights, and listen close. You're about to walk a path where the dead don't rest, and the living don't dare forget. Oh, and before we dive in, where are you watching from? What time is it there? Drop a comment below. I'm dying to know who's huddled under the covers with me tonight. The sun is a brutal fist overhead, pounding down on the plaza where you stand, shoulder to shoulder with a crowd that smells of sweat, maize, and fear. Your bare feet burn against the stone, each pebble a reminder that you're not dreaming, not really. Around you, the city pulses. Vendors hawk tamales wrapped in corn husks, their voices sharp as obsidian. Children dart through the throng, their laughter a fleeting rebellion against the weight of this place. You want to run, to slip into one of those narrow alleys where the canals gleam like liquid jade, but the crowd presses you forward, toward the Great Pyramid, the Templo Mayor. Its twin shrines glower down at you. One for Tlaloc, the rain god, who drowns the earth in his tears, and one for Huitzilopochtli, the war god, who drinks blood like you drink coffee on a Monday morning. The comparison makes you chuckle, but it's a nervous sound, swallowed by the chant rising from the priest above. You crane your neck, squinting against the glare. At the pyramid's peak, a figure moves, not a priest, not yet. It's a woman, her hair loose and wild, her body painted with chalk and ash. She's no captive, no trembling offering. She's a seer, they whisper a Nawal, one who walks between worlds. Her name is murmured through the crowd, Xochitl, flower, though there's nothing soft about her. Her eyes, black as the underworld's rivers, lock onto yours for a heartbeat, and you swear she sees you, not just your face, but your fears, your doubts, the way you're already wondering if you'd survive this world. She raises a hand, and the crowd falls silent. The gods are watching, she says, her voice cutting through the heat like a blade. But so are the dead. Your stomach twists. You don't know what she means, but you feel it, a weight, a presence, as if someone's standing just behind you, their breath cold on your neck. The Aztecs don't talk about death the way you do, with hushed tones and funeral playlists. Death is a doorway, a journey, and the afterlife isn't some fluffy cloudscape or eternal office meeting. It's Mictlan, the underworld, a 9-layered labyrinth where souls claw their way through trials that make your worst deadlines look like a nap. You overhear a man beside you, his voice low, explaining it to his son. First, you cross the river, guarded by a dog who knows your sins. Then, the mountains that crush, the winds that flay, the jaguars that hunt. His son, no older than 10, nods solemnly, clutching a small clay figure of a dog. You glance at it, a crude thing, its eyes painted with ochre, its teeth bared. It's a psychopomp, a guide for the dead, buried with the departed to lead them through Mictlan's horrors. You wonder if you'd trust a clay dog to save you from an eternity of jaguar claws. You wouldn't. Xochitl descends the pyramid steps, her bare feet silent on the blood-slick stone. The crowd parts for her, and you're pushed closer, close enough to smell the herbs woven into her hair, marigold, sharp and bitter, like grief. She stops, turns, and points, not at you, but at a man a few paces away. He's young, broad-shouldered, his chest painted with black stripes, a warrior by the look of him. "You," she says, and the word is a sentence. His face pales, but he steps forward, head high. The crowd murmurs, some in awe, some in pity. You don't know his name, but you know his fate. He's been chosen, not for sacrifice, not yet, but for something worse. A vision quest, a ritual to glimpse the afterlife while still breathing. You've heard the stories. Men and women sent into trances, fed sacred mushrooms, their minds dragged through Micklin's trials. Some return, babbling, broken. Others don't return at all. The moral weight of this hits you like a stone. Should you speak up? Should you warn him, this stranger, that Xochitl's visions might shatter him? You could shout, draw the crowd's eyes, maybe save him from a fate worse than death. But the air is heavy with faith, with fear, and you're an outsider here. Your modern skepticism as useless as a smartphone in a thunderstorm. If you speak, they'll turn on you. Xochitl's eyes will find you again, and this time, they won't let go. You stay silent, your throat tight, and hate yourself for it. The warrior follows Xochitl, his steps steady, but his hands trembling. You watch them climb the pyramid, disappearing into the shrine's shadowed maw. The crowd exhales, and you realize you've been holding your breath. The chant resumes, louder now, a drumbeat of voices and actual drums. Their hides stretch tight as your nerves. You're swept along as the crowd moves, not toward the pyramid but away, toward the marketplace. The air shifts lighter but no less intense, filled with the sizzle of maize cakes on clay griddles, the clink of cacao beans changing hands. You pass a stall where an old woman carves obsidian blades, her fingers gnarled but steady. She glances up, her eyes milky with age, and mutters something you don't catch, something about the dog that waits. You shiver, thinking of that clay figure, its painted teeth. Is she talking about Micklin? About you? You hurry past, but her words cling to you like damp cloth. You find a corner to catch your breath, leaning against a wall painted with serpents, their scales bright with turquoise and red. The city is a paradox, beautiful, brutal, alive with color and death. You think of your world, your cubicle, your endless scroll through social media. There, death is distant, sanitized, a post you like and forget. Here it's everywhere, in the blood on the pyramid, the dog in the boy's hand, the seer's gaze. You wonder if you're brave enough to face Micklin, to walk its paths, to meet whatever waits at the end. You're not sure. But as the sun dips, painting the sky the color of sacrifice, you know one thing. This city, this world, will force you to find out. The marketplace hums around you, but your eyes drift back to the pyramid, its silhouette sharp against the dusk. Somewhere up there, the warrior is seeing things you can't imagine. Rivers of bone, winds that scream, gods who demand more than you can give. You want to believe he'll come back whole, but Xochitl's words echo in your mind. The gods are watching. But so are the dead. You pull your cloak tighter, though the air is warm, and move deeper into the crowd, seeking distraction, seeking safety. But in Tenochtitlan, safety is a lie, and the afterlife is closer than you think. The marketplace fades behind you, its clamor softening to a dull roar as you slip into a quieter corner of Tenochtitlan, where the canals carve the city into islands of stone and secrets. The water glints under the moonlight, black and still, like a mirror that refuses to show your reflection. You're alone now, or so you think, your sandals slapping against the damp stone path, each step echoing in the humid night. The air smells of mud and night-blooming flowers, their petals heavy with a sweetness that clings to your skin. You're not sure where you're going, only that you needed to escape the crowd, the pyramid, the weight of eyes that seem to know too much. But this city doesn't let you wander aimlessly. Every corner holds a purpose, every shadow a story. And as you round a bend, you see it, a low, squat building, its walls painted with skeletal hands reaching for a turquoise sun. The doorway is open, a yawning mouth, and from within comes a sound, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of whispers. You hesitate, your hand brushing the rough stucco of the wall. Back home, you'd scroll past a creepy building like this on your phone, maybe joke about it in a group chat. Here, there's no screen to shield you, no emoji to laugh it off. The whispers grow clearer, not words but tones, rising and falling like a song no one taught you. You could turn back, find the marketplace again, lose yourself in the safe chaos of vendors and mace cakes. But your feet betray you, stepping forward, drawn to the dark. Inside, the air is cooler, thick with a scent of charred herbs and something sharper, iron or maybe blood. Your eyes adjust to the dimness, and you see her, an old woman, hunched over a clay brazier, her hands tossing dried leaves into the flames. The fire spits green sparks, and the smoke curls upward, forming shapes you don't want to name. She doesn't look up, but she knows you're there. Sit, she says, her voice dry as bone. You obey, sinking onto a reed mat that smells faintly of mildew. Her name, you learn later, is Tlacaelel, though no one calls her that to her face. They call her the Keeper, the one who guards the codices, the painted books that hold the Aztecs' truths, gods, wars, and the paths of the dead. Her fingers, gnarled as tree roots, trace the edge of a folded codex, its pages vibrant with reds and blacks, images of skulls and feathered serpents. You lean closer, drawn to the artistry, but she slaps your hand away, quick as a snake. These aren't for the living, she snaps, her eyes glinting in the firelight. Not unless you're ready to pay. You swallow, your throat tight. Pay what? Gold? Blood? Your sanity? You've heard of people like her, diviners, keepers of lore, who trade secrets for prices that linger long after the deal is done. She smirks, as if reading your thoughts, and points to a small clay figure on the mat beside her. It's a skull, no bigger than your fist, carved with intricate patterns of vines and stars. Its eyes are hollow, but you swear they're watching you, waiting. The Calavera, she says, a bridge to Mictlantecutli, Lord of the Underworld. Hold it, and he'll show you what waits. Your stomach churns. Mictlantecutli, the skeletal god who rules Mictlan, isn't known for kindness. His realm is a gauntlet, rivers that drown, winds that shred, and a final rest only the worthy reach. You don't feel worthy. You feel like someone who forgot to mute their mic in a Zoom call, exposed and unprepared. The keeper leans closer, her breath sour with herbs. Everyone wants to know, she says. Will you face the jaguars? Will you cross the river? Or will you wander forever, a shade with no name? Her words are a hook, sinking deep. You think of your life, your desk, your deadlines, the way you avoid thinking about what comes after. Here, death isn't an abstract. It's a place, a journey, and this woman is offering you a glimpse. But there's a catch. You feel it in the way her fingers hover over the skull, in the way the smoke seems to coil tighter around you. Take it, she urges, pushing the calavera closer. Your hand hovers, trembling. To touch it is to invite the underworld into your mind, to see things you can't unsee. To refuse is to walk away, to stay ignorant, safe. But is safety worth living with the question, the not knowing gnawing at you like a worm? You're not alone in the room anymore. A shadow moves in the corner, silent, cloaked in black feathers. You don't see a face, only hands, long, pale, clutching a staff topped with a jade serpent. The figure doesn't speak, but their presence is a weight, a warning. The keeper glances at them, her smirk fading, and you realize this is no ordinary visitor. They're a priest, maybe, or something older, something that doesn't belong to the living. The codex on the mat seems to hum, its colors brighter, as if the figure's presence has woken it. You want to ask who they are, but your voice sticks, trapped behind the lump in your throat. The keeper ignores them, her eyes locked on you. Choose, she says, and it's not a request. The moral dilemma hits you like a wave. If you take the skull, you might see the truth of Mictlan, its terrors, its trials, maybe even your own fate. But what if the vision breaks you, leaves you like those hollow-eyed wanderers you've seen in the city, muttering about rivers and claws? If you refuse, you'll leave this place unchanged, but you'll carry the weight of cowardice, the knowledge that you had a chance to face the gods and blinked. And what of the figure in the corner? Are they here to judge you, to report your choice to powers you can't name? You think of the warrior from the pyramid, his trembling hands, his courage. You're not him. You're just you, lost in a world that demands more than you're ready to give. The keeper's brazier crackles, spitting another green spark. The smoke forms a shape, a dog, its jaws wide, then a jaguar, its eyes glowing. You blink, and it's gone, but your heart races. The calavera sits between you, its hollow eyes unyielding. You reach out, then stop, your fingers inches from the clay. The keeper laughs, a dry, rattling sound. Not so easy is it, she says. The gods don't care for indecision. The figure in the corner shifts, their staff tapping once softly against the stone floor. The sound is a jolt, a reminder that time is slipping, that choices here aren't just choices, they're debts, paid now or later. You pull your hand back, your palm sweaty. The keeper's face hardens, but she doesn't push. Instead, she picks up the calavera, cradling it like a child. Another time then, she says, but her tone is mocking, as if she knows you'll regret this. She turns to the codex, flipping a page with a deliberate slowness, revealing an image of a skeletal figure seated on a throne of bones. Mictlantecuhtli, you assume, his jaw gaping, his hands outstretched. The figure in the corner steps closer, and you catch a glimpse of their staff. Its jade serpent seems to writhe, alive. You stand, your legs unsteady, and back toward the door. The keeper doesn't look up, but her voice follows you. Run all you want, she says. The underworld finds everyone. Outside, the night is colder, the canal's water lapping softly against the stone. You walk faster, your breath hitching, the city sounds, distant drums, a woman's laugh, fading behind you. The keeper's words echo, mingling with the memory of the calavera's stare. You chose safety, but it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like a debt, one you'll pay when you least expect it. The stars above are sharp like obsidian points, and you wonder if they're watching, if Mictlantecuhtli is watching, waiting for the moment you can't run anymore. You turn a corner, the path leading toward the heart of the city, where the pyramid waits, its shadow a stain on the horizon. You don't want to go back there, but Tenochtitlan doesn't care what you want. It pulls you forward deeper into a world where the living and the dead walk too close for comfort. The city's pulse is a distant thrum as you stumble onto a narrow causeway, the stone cool and slick beneath your feet, worn smooth by countless pilgrims and penitents. The air is heavy with mist, curling off the lake that cradles Tenochtitlan. Its surface a sheet of obsidian flecked with moonlight. You're far from the marketplace now, far from the pyramid's looming shadow. But the weight of this place clings to you, a damp cloak of unease. Your breath catches, sharp with the scent of algae and something sweeter, rotting fruit, perhaps, or the faint perfume of offerings left to drift on the water. The causeway stretches ahead, a ribbon of stone flanked by reeds that hiss in the breeze. Their whispers, like secrets you're not meant to hear. You're not sure why you're here, only that your steps led you to this liminal place, where the city feels like a dream and the gods feel far too close. A flicker of light catches your eye, a torch bobbing in the distance. Its flame weak but stubborn against the mist. You slow, your sandals scuffing the stone, and squint into the haze. A figure emerges, cloaked in a mantle of woven maguey fibers, their face hidden by a wooden mask carved with the snarling jaws of a jaguar. The mask's eyes are inlaid with polished shells, glinting like stars, and you feel their gaze before you see it, a prickle on your skin, like static before storm. The figure carries a bundle, a reed basket slung over one shoulder, and as they draw closer, you catch the clink of something inside, not coins but sharper, like glass or stone. You want to turn back, to retrace your steps to the city's safer chaos. But the causeway is narrow, and the water on either side is too dark, too still to trust. So you stand, rooted, as the figure stops a few paces away. You're lost, they say, their voice muffled by the mask, low and rough like gravel underfoot. It's not a question. You open your mouth to argue, lost? You, who've navigated rush hour traffic and corporate email chains, but the words die in your throat. The figure tilts their head, the jaguar's jaws seeming to grin. Or maybe you're found, they add, and the words are a hook, pulling you deeper into this moment, this place. They set the basket down, the clinking louder now, and kneel, their movements deliberate, ritualistic. You catch a glimpse of their hands, scarred, calloused, the nails stained with something dark. I am Quatli, they say, as if the name explains everything. Eagle, a warrior, then or something more, something tied to the gods who soar and hunt. Quatli lifts the basket's lid, and the torchlight reveals its contents. Obsidian mirrors, their surfaces polished to a glassy sheen, each one small enough to fit in your palm. They're not for vanity, not here. These are teskactyl, sacred mirrors, tools of divination said to trap the gaze of gods or the dead. You've heard whispers of them in the city, stories of priests staring into their depths until their eyes bled, seeing truths that drove them to madness or sacrifice. Quatli picks one up, its edge catching the light, and holds it out to you. Look, they say, and it's not an offer, it's a challenge. Your reflection wavers in the mirror's surface, distorted, your eyes too wide, your mouth a thin line of fear. But there's something else, a shadow, behind you, a shape that doesn't match the causeway or the reeds. You jerk back, your heart pounding. Quatli doesn't move, their masked face unreadable. The teskactyl shows what is, they say, and what will be. You want to laugh, to dismiss it as a trick, like a funhouse mirror or a cheap psychic reading. But the air is too heavy, the mist too thick, and the shadow in the mirror felt real, too real. You think of your world, your phone's endless scroll, the way you avoid mirrors late at night, half convinced you'll see something you shouldn't. Here, that fear isn't superstition. It's survival. Quatli sets the mirror back in the basket, but their hand lingers, as if waiting for you to change your mind. The gods see you, they say. But do you see them? The causeway feels narrower now, the water closer, its surface rippling as if something beneath is stirring. You hear it, a low, guttural sound, not quite a growl, not quite a moan. It's coming from the reeds, or maybe the lake itself, and it sends a shiver through you, sharp as a blade. Quatley doesn't flinch, but their fingers tighten on the basket. Tlaloc is restless, they murmur, and you remember the rain god, his tears flooding the earth, his altars slick with offerings. You glance at the water, half expecting to see his face, goggle-eyed, fanged, staring back. Instead, there's only darkness, and that sound growing louder, like a drumbeat in your bones. Quatley stands, slinging the basket over their shoulder. Come, they say, turning down the causeway, toward a low island barely visible through the mist. You don't want to follow, but the alternative, staying here, alone, with that sound, feels worse. Your feet move, reluctant, and you trail behind, the torchlight flickering as the mist thickens. The island is small, its shore littered with broken pottery and wilting marigolds, remnants of offerings left to rot. At its center stands a shrine, a squat structure of stone and plaster, its roof adorned with a single turquoise feather, swaying in the breeze. Inside, you glimpse an altar, its surface stained dark, and above it, a statue of Tlaloc, his eyes wide, his mouth open as if ready to drink the world. Quatley kneels before the shrine, setting the basket down. They pull out a mirror and place it on the altar, its surface catching the torchlight, throwing jagged reflections across the stone. The Teskactyl speaks for Tlaloc, they say, their voice softer now, almost reverent. But it demands a price. They reach into their cloak and produce a small obsidian blade, its edge so sharp it seems to hum. You step back, your sandal catching on a shard of pottery, the crunch loud in the silence. Quatley doesn't look at you, but their words are clear. Blood for truth. Yours or another's. The moral weight crashes into you, heavy as the mist. Blood? You're no warrior, no priest. You're just you, caught in a world where the gods don't take IOUs. If you offer your blood, you're binding yourself to Tlaloc, to this shrine, to a truth that might drown you as surely as his floods. If you refuse, you're turning your back on Quatley, on the mirror, on a chance to understand this world's rules. But there's a third option, whispered in the back of your mind. Someone else's blood. A stranger's, a captive's, someone the city won't miss. The thought makes you sick, but it's there, as real as the blade in Quatley's hand. You think of your world, your compromises, the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Here, silence isn't an option. The gods are watching, and so is Quatley. The sound from the lake grows louder, a wail now, like a child lost in the dark. Quatley's mask tilts toward the water, and for the first time, you sense their unease. He's close, they say, and you don't need to ask who. Tlaloc, or something wearing his name. The mirror on the altar gleams, and you swear you see movement in it. A hand, a face, gone before you can blink. Your pulse races, your mouth dry. Quatley holds out the blade, its tip pointed not at you, but at the space between you, an invitation or a threat. Choose, they say, and the word is a stone, sinking into the lake of your thoughts. You stare at the blade, then the mirror, then the water, where the wail has softened to a whimper. The shrine feels alive, the turquoise feather trembling though the air is still. You could run, but the causeway is long, and the mist hides too many things. You could take the blade, offer your blood, and face whatever the Teskactyl shows you. Or you could suggest another's, and live with the stain of that choice. Quatley waits, their shell eyes unblinking, and the lake seems to hold its breath. You reach out, your hand shaking, and the world narrows to this moment, This choice, this causeway where the gods and the dead are far too near. The causeway is behind you now, swallowed by the mist, and your steps echo in a different part of Tenochtitlan, where the city's edges fray into chinampas, floating gardens that bob gently on the lake surface. The air is sharp with the green tang of cut reeds and the faint rot of waterlogged roots, a reminder that even this lush abundance rests on decay. You're not sure how you got here, only that the night pushed you forward, away from stone and shrines, into this patchwork of mud and maze. The chinampas stretch out like stepping stones, each plot a small island of life, their edges fringed with willows that droop into the water. Fireflies dance in the dark, their glow a fleeting comfort against the vastness of the lake, which breathes softly, its ripples kissing the wooden stakes that anchor these gardens. You're alone, your cloak damp with mist, your heart still racing from choices you didn't make, questions you didn't answer. A soft splash breaks the silence not far off, and you freeze, your sandals sinking slightly into the muddy path. The sound comes again, deliberate, like oars dipping into the water. A canoe glides into view, its hull carved with serpentine patterns, its lone occupant a man bent low, his paddle cutting the lake with practiced ease. He's old, his hair streaked with gray, his shoulders hunched under a cloak of woven rushes. His face is weathered, etched with lines that speak of years spent under the sun and stars. But his eyes, when they meet yours, are bright, almost feverish, like someone who's seen too much and can't unsee it. He ties the canoe to a stake and steps onto the chinampa, his movements slow but steady, a clay jar cradled in his arms. The jar is painted with black whorls, its lid sealed with wax, and it hums faintly. Or maybe that's just your nerves. You shouldn't be here, he says, his voice soft but firm, like a parent scolding a child who's wandered too far. He sets the jar down on a bed of may stalks, and you catch a whiff of something acrid, like charred bone. This is no place for the living. You want to snap back. Where in this city is a place for the living, but his gaze stops you, heavy with a sadness you don't understand. He introduces himself as Istli, a gardener, though the way he handles that jar suggests he's more than a man who tends crops. These are for the departed, he says, gesturing to the jar. And you realize it's an urn, a vessel for ashes, meant to be sunk into the lake as an offering to the dead. You step closer, drawn despite yourself, and see the chinampa is dotted with similar jars, half buried in the soil or nestled among the roots of squash plants. They're not just containers, they're sympasical urns, named for the marigold flowers that blaze orange and yellow across the garden, their petals scattered like offerings. The Aztecs believe these flowers guide the dead. They're sent a beacon through Mictlan's trials, leading souls to rest or reunion. You've seen marigolds before in markets, woven into garlands, but here, their glow feels alive, pulsing in time with the fireflies. Istli kneels beside the urn, his fingers brushing a marigold petal, and murmurs something, a prayer, a name, you're not sure. The lake laps softly, as if listening. Why'd he do this, you ask, your voice louder than you meant, cutting through the night. Istli doesn't look up, but his hands pause. Because someone must, he says. The dead don't find their way alone. Without the sympasical, they wander, lost, and Mictlan is no place for stragglers. You think of your world, your quick condolences, you're sorry for your lost texts that feel as empty as a deleted email. Here, the dead are a responsibility, a weight the living carry long after the pyres cool. Istli stands, wiping his hands on his cloak, and fixes you with that bright, unsettling stare. You could help, he says, and the words are a door, swinging open to a path you're not sure you want to walk. Are you still awake? I truly hope so, because there's something special about drifting through this story together, quietly, slowly. If you're still listening, whisper to me. Where are you right now? And how far have we come together? Don't fall asleep just yet. The most mysterious part is still waiting for us ahead. He points to a pile of marigolds, their stems freshly cut, their scent sharp enough to sting your eyes. Scatter them, he says, handing you a basket woven from reeds. For the one in the urn, she deserves a path. You hesitate, the basket heavy in your hands. She? Who was she? A mother, a sister, a stranger? Istli doesn't elaborate, and the urn's black whorls seem to watch you, waiting. You could scatter the petals, join this quiet ritual, give a soul you never knew a chance at peace. But something holds you back, a prickle of doubt, a whisper that this act ties you to this world, to its gods, its dead. What if you scatter the petals and feel her, whoever she was, brushing past you? What if Mikla notices you, marks you as one of its own? The moral conflict coils around you, tight as the lake's ripples. To help Istli is to honor the dead, to weave yourself into the fabric of this city's faith. But it's also a step closer to the underworld, a gesture that might linger, like a debt you didn't mean to borrow. You could refuse, set the basket down, walk away from this chinampa and its glowing flowers. But that feels like betrayal, not just of Istli, but of something larger, something that hums in the marigolds, in the lake, in the urn's silent plea. You think of your life, your tendency to dodge commitment, to ghost conversations when they get too heavy. Here, there's no ghosting. The dead are too close, and Istli's eyes are too steady. A shadow moves on the next chinampa, a flicker of movement among the maze. You squint, your pulse quickening, and see a figure, small, cloaked, their face hidden by a hood. They're tending another urn, their hands quick and furtive, as if afraid of being seen. Istli doesn't notice or doesn't care, his focus on the marigolds at his feet. The figure glances your way, and you catch a glimpse of their eyes, wide, haunted, like someone who's seen Miklin and come back wrong. They vanish into the shadows, leaving you with a chill that has nothing to do with the mist. Who are they? Another gardener, or something else? Something that tends the dead for reasons darker than Istli's quiet devotion? The lake stirs, a soft gurgle that sounds too much like laughter. You clutch the basket, the marigold scent overwhelming now, their petals soft but heavy, like promises. Istli watches you, his expression unreadable, but there's a weight to his silence, an expectation. She was young, he says suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Too young for Miklin's trials. The Sympasicil will help her. The words hit you like a stone, and you picture her, not her face, but her fear, her footsteps faltering in the underworld's dark. You want to ask her name, but the question feels intrusive, like liking a stranger's grief post on social media. Instead, you kneel, your knees sinking into the mud, and pluck a marigold from the basket. The petal is cool against your fingers, its scent sharp and alive. You scatter it, then another, watching them drift across the chinampa, their glow a fragile light against the dark. Istli nods, a small gesture, but it feels like approval, like you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. The urn seems to hum again, or maybe it's the lake, or the marigolds, or your own blood pounding in your ears. You scatter more petals, your hands moving faster now, and the chinampa feels smaller, the lake closer, the night heavier. The shadowed figure on the next plot is gone, but their presence lingers, a question you can't shake. You finish the basket, your fingers stained with marigold sap, and stand. Your legs unsteady. Istli takes the basket, his eyes softer now, but still bright, still searching. You did well, he says, and you want to believe him. But the lake's laughter is louder now, and the urn's whirls seem to shift, forming eyes, a mouth, a face. You step back, your sandal catching on a root, and Istli steadies you, his grip firm but gentle. The dead thank you, he says, but his voice is distant, drowned by the lake's murmur. You want to leave, to find solid ground, but the chinampas stretch on, and the marigolds glow brighter, their scent a chain pulling you back. You walk away, the path slick underfoot, the lake watching, the dead whispering, and Tenochtitlan's heart beating louder than your own. The chinampas are a fading memory as you find yourself in a different vein of Tenochtitlan, where the city sprawl gives way to a warren of adobe houses, their walls cracked and stained with soot. The air is thick with the smell of charred maize and the faint, metallic tang of sweat, as if the stones themselves are exhausted. It's dawn, or close to it, the sky a bruised purple, streaked with gold, that feels more like a warning than a promise. You're walking a narrow street, your cloak heavy with dew, your sandals caked with mud from paths you can't recall. The city is waking, but it's a restless stirring. Dogs bark, a baby wails, and somewhere a drum thumps, low and insistent, like a heartbeat you can't escape. You're not sure why you're here, only that the night spat you out into this place, where the living cling to their routines, and the dead feel just a breath away. A crowd gathers at the street's end, their murmurs sharp with urgency, and you're drawn to it, your steps quickening despite the ache in your legs. The people are clustered around a small courtyard, its walls painted with faded images of feathered serpents, their eyes chipped but watchful. At the center stands a man, tall and wiry, his chest bare except for a necklace of turquoise beads that catch the dawn's light. His hair is tied back with a strip of maguey fiber, and his hands are stained red, not with blood, you hope, but with cochineal dye, the kind used for rituals and art. He's speaking, his voice a rhythmic cadence that pulls the crowd closer, though his words are too soft for you to catch. You edge forward, squeezing past a woman clutching a basket of maize, her eyes wide with something between awe and fear. The man's name you overhear is Oatly, a poet priest, one who weaves words into offerings for the gods. He's not like the priests on the pyramid, with their bloodied knives and hollow chants. Oatly's power is in his voice, his ability to spin stories that make the gods listen, that keep the world turning. You've heard of men like him, their poems carved into stone or painted in codices, their words a bridge between the living and the divine. But there's something off about Oatly. His eyes are too bright, his gestures too sharp, as if he's unraveling under the weight of his own verses. He holds up a small object, and the crowd gasps. It's a feather, long and iridescent, shimmering green and gold. A quetzal feather, sacred to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god who gave humanity maize and breath. The feather is more than a symbol. It's a talisman, a fragment of the god's power. You've seen quetzal feathers before, woven into headdresses or cloaks, but this one feels different, alive, its colors shifting as Oatly turns it in the dawn light. This, he says, his voice rising, is a promise. Quetzalcoatl sees us, knows us, and through his feather, we speak to him. The crowd murmurs, some nodding, others clutching amulets or whispering prayers. You feel it too, a pull, like the feather is watching you, judging you. Back home you'd scoff. Feathers don't judge, they're just bird parts, like the chicken wings you order on a Friday night. But here, in this courtyard, with Oatly's voice curling around you like smoke, the feather feels like a verdict, waiting to be read. Oatley steps down from the low platform, the feather still in his hand, and the crowd parts, giving him space. He moves toward a young girl, no older than 12, her hair braided with marigold petals. She's trembling, her hands clasped tight, but she doesn't flinch as Oatley kneels before her. "You," he says, his voice softer now, almost tender. "The gods have chosen you." The words hit you like a slap, and you see the girl's eyes widen, her breath hitching. Chosen for what? You've heard the stories, children picked for rituals, their lives offered to appease the gods or ensure the rains. But Oatley's tone isn't cruel, and the feather in his hand glows brighter, as if approving. He places it in her hands, and she clutches it, her knuckles white, her face a mask of fear and pride. The crowd is silent now, the drumbeat louder, vibrating in your chest. You want to step forward, to ask what this means, to demand answers. But the air is heavy with faith, with expectation, and you're an outsider. Your skepticism as useless as a dead phone battery. Oatley stands, his gaze sweeping the courtyard, and for a moment, his eyes lock onto yours. They're not just bright, they're fevered, haunted, like someone who's seen the gods and paid too high a price. "The feather binds us," he says, addressing the crowd, but looking at you. "To Quetzalcoatl, to the dead, to the world we must save." You don't know what he means, but you feel it, a weight, a responsibility, as if the feather's glow is reaching for you too. A man in the crowd, his face scarred and weathered, steps forward, his voice rough. "And if she fails?" he asks, gesturing to the girl. The question hangs, sharp as obsidian, and Oatley's smile falters. "Then we all fail," he says, and the words are stone, sinking into the courtyard silence. The girl clutches the feather tighter, her eyes darting to the crowd, to Oatley, to you. You want to look away, but you can't. She's just a kid, caught in a ritual you don't understand. Her life tethered to a god you've only read about in history books. The moral conflict crashes into you like a wave. Should you speak up, challenge Oatley? Demand you let her go? You could shout, draw the crowd's eyes. Maybe save her from a fate you can't name. But the crowd's faith is a wall, and Oatley's presence is a blade, cutting through your doubts. If you speak, they'll turn on you, or worse, they'll ignore you, and the girl will still carry that feather. Oatley begins to chant, his voice low and rhythmic, weaving a poem that feels like a spell. The words are Nahuatl, unfamiliar, but alive, painting images of wind and maze, of serpents coiling through the stars. The feather in the girl's hand seems to pulse, its glow spreading, casting shadows that twist into shapes, wings, scales, eyes. You blink, and they're gone, but your skin prickles, as if the courtyard is no longer just a courtyard. The drumbeat quickens, and the crowd sways, caught in Oatley's words, in the feather's light. You're swaying too, though you don't want to, your body betraying your mind. The girl stands still, the feather her anchor, her eyes fixed on something you can't see. A shadow moves at the courtyard's edge, a figure cloaked in black, their face hidden by a hood. They're not part of the crowd, not part of the ritual, but they're watching, their presence a cold spot in the dawn's warmth. You catch a glimpse of their hands, pale, clutching a small clay figure. Its shape too familiar, like the dogs buried with the dead. The figure slips back into the shadows, but their eyes linger, dark and knowing, as if they've seen this before, seen you before. Who are they? A mourner, a spy, or something worse, something that walks between the living and the dead? You want to follow, to demand answers, but Oatley's chant holds you, and the girl's trembling hands keep you rooted. The poem ends abrupt, and the courtyard exhales. Oatley kneels again, whispering to the girl, his words too soft to hear. She nods, her face calmer now, but her eyes are still wide, still searching. The crowd begins to disperse, their murmurs softer, their steps heavy with purpose or dread. You stay, your feet stuck to the stone, your mind racing. The feather, the girl Oatley's fevered eyes, they're pieces of a puzzle you don't understand, but you feel their weight, their pull. You could approach Oatley, ask him what the feather means, what the girl's role is. But his presence is daunting, and the crowd's faith is a warning. Outsiders don't question the gods. Or you could follow the shadowed figure, chase their secrets into the city's maze. But that feels like stepping into a trap, one you're not ready to spring. The girl turns, the feather glowing in her hands, and meets your gaze. Her eyes are a plea, a question, a challenge. You want to tell her it's okay, that she's strong enough, but the words feel hollow, like a like on a post you didn't read. You turn away, your throat tight, and walk back into the street, the drumbeat fading, the dawn light harsher now. The city wakes around you, its sound sharper, its shadows deeper. You feel the feathers glow behind you, the girl's eyes on your back, and you know you've made a choice, even if it was just to walk away. Tenochtitlan doesn't let you escape its questions, its gods, its dead. And as the street curves toward the city's heart, you feel them following, their whispers louder than the dawn. The streets of Tenochtitlan have twisted again, and you find yourself in a place where the city's clamor softens to a hush, where the air grows heavy with the scent of damp earth and burning resin. You're standing at the edge of a sacred precinct, a walled enclosure where the temples are smaller, but no less imposing. Their stones carved with glyphs that seem to writhe in the flickering torchlight. The night is deep now, the sky a velvet shroud pierced by stars that feel too close, too watchful. Your cloak is tattered at the hem, snagged by thorns or stones from paths you've forgotten, and your hands are gritty with dust, as if you've been clawing your way through this city's secrets. The precinct gate is open, a narrow arch framed by skulls, real ones bleached and stacked, their empty sockets staring. You hesitate, your breath catching, but the silence beyond the gate pulls you forward, a lure you can't resist. Inside, the precinct is a maze of low walls and altars, each one draped with garlands of marigolds and maize husks that rustle in the faint breeze. The ground is soft, almost spongy, and you realize it's not stone but packed earth, stained dark in places, as if the soil itself has drunk too much. You hear a sound, a low, rhythmic scraping, like a blade against bone, and your pulse quickens. You round a corner and see her, a woman, her back to you, kneeling before a small altar. She's young, her hair loose and black as the night, her shoulders bare except for a shawl of woven cotton dyed deep indigo. In her hands is a stingray spine, its barbed tip glinting as she draws it across her palm, a slow, deliberate cut. Blood wells, dark and thick, dripping onto the altar, where a clay figure of a goddess stands, her face serene, but her eyes fierce, painted with red ochre. The woman doesn't notice you, or doesn't care, her focus on the ritual, her lips moving in a silent prayer. You want to back away, to leave her to this private act, but your feet are rooted, and the air feels charged like the moment before a thunderstorm. You've heard of bloodletting, the Aztec way of feeding the gods, of keeping the sun rising and the world spinning. Back home, you'd wince at a paper cut, pop an Advil, and move on. Here, pain is currency, and this woman is paying in full. You catch a glimpse of the goddess figure. Quetzal, you think, the deity of beauty, fertility, and flowers, but also of sacrifice. Her altars slick with the offerings of those who seek her favor or fear her wrath. The woman turns, and you see her face, striking, with high cheekbones and eyes that burn with a quiet intensity. She's not startled by your presence, only curious, as if you're a stray dog that's wandered into her yard. "You're not from here," she says, her voice calm but edged, like a blade wrapped in silk. She wipes the stingray spine on her shawl, leaving a smear of blood, and stands, her movements graceful but deliberate. Her name, she tells you, is Malinal, a weaver by trade, but a devotee by choice. One who offers her blood to Zakaquetzal to ensure the harvests, the births, the fragile balance of this world. "Why are you here?" she asks. And the question is a mirror, reflecting your own doubts. You don't know why, not really, just that Tenochtitlan keeps pulling you deeper, into places where the gods are too close and the answers too sharp. Malinal gestures to the altar, where the goddess's figure seems to watch, its ochre eyes catching the torchlight. Beside it lies a small bundle of cotton threads, dyed in vibrant hues, turquoise, crimson, gold, knotted into intricate patterns. "The Istli," she says, picking up the bundle. "The face of the gods." You lean closer, drawn to the thread's complexity, each not a story, a prayer, a piece of the cosmos woven into cloth. These are sacred textiles, you realize, not just art, but a language, a way to speak to Zakaquetzal and her kin. Malinal holds a bundle out to you, her bloodied palms still dripping, and her eyes narrow. "Touch it," she says. "Feel her." Your hand hovers, hesitant. The threads are beautiful, but they hum with something deeper, something that makes your skin prickle, like static from a screen you've stared at too long. You want to refuse, to step back, to find a way out of this precinct and its blood-soaked earth. But Malinal's gaze is unrelenting, and the goddess's eyes seem to follow you, unblinking. "You think you can walk away," Malinal says, her voice softer now, almost pitying. "But the gods see you. They always see." She sets the Istli back on the altar, but her words linger, heavy as the air. You notice a shadow moving along the precinct wall, not hers, not yours, a figure cloaked and silent, their face hidden by a mask of woven reeds. They're carrying a bundle of their own, but it's not threads, it's bones, small and pale, tied with cord. The figure pauses, their mask tilting toward you, and you feel a chill, as if they've marked you, as if they know something you don't. They slip behind an altar, gone as quickly as they appeared, but their presence lingers, a question you can't answer. Malinal kneels again, picking up the stingray spine, and you realize she's about to cut herself again, to offer more blood, more pain. "Wait," you say, the word escaping before you can stop it. She pauses, her head tilting, her eyes searching yours. "Why?" you ask, your voice trembling. "Why do this to yourself?" She smiles, a small, sad curve of her lips. "Because the world demands it," she says. "Because Zakaquetzal asks, and I answer." She holds out the spine, its tip still wet with her blood. "You could answer too," she says, and the words are a challenge, a door swinging open to a path you're not sure you can walk. The moral conflict hits you like a stone. To take the spine, to draw your own blood, is to join Malinal's offering, to bind yourself to Zakaquetzal, to this world's cycle of pain and renewal. It's a choice that feels permanent, like signing a contract you haven't read. To refuse is to stay apart, to keep your hands clean, but it's also to reject Malinal, to dismiss her faith, her sacrifice. You think of your world, your compromises, the times you've dodged hard choices with a shrug or a swipe. Here, there's no swiping away. The goddess is watching, the threads are humming, and Malinal's blood is pooling on the altar, a reminder that choices have weight, have cost. And what of the masked figure? Were they a warning, a threat, or something else, something that feeds on the offerings left here? The precinct feels smaller now, the walls closer, the skulls on the gate more alive. Malin awaits, the stingray's spine steady in her hand, her eyes unyielding. You reach out, then stop, your fingers trembling. The Istli on the altar seems to glow, its knots tightening, as if the threads are weaving you into their pattern. You hear a sound, a soft, rhythmic chant, not Malinal's, not yours, but coming from the shadows where the figure vanished. It's Nahuatl, unfamiliar, but heavy, like a prayer or a curse. Your heart races, your mouth dry. You could take the spine, offer your blood, and see what Zakaketzel demands. Or you could turn away, leave the precinct, and carry the weight of your refusal, knowing you've seen the gods, but refuse to answer. Malinal lowers the spine, her expression unreadable, and resumes her prayer, her voice a whisper that blends with the chant from the shadows. The goddess's figure seems to lean forward, its ochre eyes brighter, and the air grows heavier, pressing against your chest. You step back, your sandal catching on the soft earth, and stumble, catching yourself against a wall. The glyphs beneath your hand feel warm, alive, and you jerk away, your skin crawling. Malinal doesn't look up, but her voice follows you as you retreat toward the gate. The gods don't forget, she says, and the words are a chain, pulling you back even as you flee. Outside, the night is colder, the stars sharper, like obsidian points in a sky that's too vast. The precinct's walls loom behind you, the skulls on the gate grinning, and you walk faster, your breath hitching. The chant lingers, faint but persistent, mingling with the city's waking sounds. Drums, voices, the distant cry of a child. You feel the Istli's hum in your bones, Malinal's eyes on your back, and you know you've left something behind, or maybe brought something with you. The streets of Tenochtitlan curve ahead, pulling you deeper into a city where the gods are always watching, and the dead are never far away. The precinct skulls are a fading blur as you stumble into a different artery of Tenochtitlan, where the city's pulse quickens with the heat of midday. The air is thick with the scent of roasted cacao and the sharp bite of chili, mingling with the dust kicked up by bare feet and woven sandals. You're in a bustling plaza, smaller than the one dominated by the Great Pyramid, but no less alive. Its edges lined with stalls draped in bright cloth, their vendors shouting over each other like influencers vying for likes. Your cloak is heavy with sweat, your throat parched, and your hands still tremble from whatever you left behind, or didn't leave behind, in the shadows of the night. The sun is a relentless hammer, pounding down on the cobblestones, and you squint against its glare, searching for shade, for a moment to catch your breath. The plaza is a kaleidoscope of movement. Women balancing baskets of maize on their heads, men hauling bundles of feathers and obsidian, children chasing a stray dog that yips and darts through the crowd. You weave through them, your shoulder brushing against a man who smells of copal incense, his eyes distant, as if he's seeing something beyond the stalls. You find a sliver of shade beneath a canopy of woven palm fronds, where a stall sells clay cups of pulque, the fermented sap frothy and sour. You're tempted to buy one, to dull the edge of this place, but your hand hesitates at your pouch, uncertain if you carry the cacao beans that pass for currency here. Before you can decide, a voice cuts through the plaza's din, sharp and commanding, like a notification you can't ignore. You there, it calls, and you turn, your heart lurching. A man stands at the plaza's center, his stance wide, his chest adorned with a pectoral of polished jade carved into the shape of a coiled serpent. He's older, his hair streaked with silver, but his body is taut, muscled, like a warrior who's never stopped fighting. His face is painted with black stripes, and his eyes are sharp, cutting through the crowd to find you. He's holding a staff topped with a cluster of bells that jingle faintly, their sound oddly delicate against the plaza's roar. The crowd gives him space, their murmurs softening, and you realize he's someone important, a noble, a priest, or maybe both. "Come closer," he says, and it's not a request. You step forward, your sandals scuffing the stone, and the crowd's eyes follow, their weight heavier than the sun. His name, you learn from a whisper nearby, is Nikali, a judge of sorts, one who settles disputes in the shadow of the gods. He's not like the priests who spill blood on pyramids. His power is in order, in the laws that keep Tenochtitlan from devouring itself. But there's a hardness to him, a coldness that makes you think of HR meetings gone wrong, where every word is a trap. He gestures to a low platform behind him, where a small crowd is gathered, their faces tight with tension. At the platform center is a clay tablet, its surface etched with glyphs and inlaid with turquoise, a tlacapetal, a record of debts and oaths, sacred to Paitcatl, the god of healing and contracts. The tlacapetal is more than a ledger, it's a covenant, binding the living to their promises, to the gods, to the dead. You've seen contracts before, leases, NDAs, the fine print you skim and regret, but this is different. The tablet's glyphs seem to pulse, as if the oaths carved into it are alive, watching. Nikali points to a young man kneeling beside the platform, his hands bound with maguey cord, his face pale but defiant. "This one," Nikali says, his voice carrying over the plaza, swore an oath to Paitcatl and broke it. He owes a debt to his family, to the city, to the gods. The young man's eyes dart up, meeting yours for a heartbeat, and you see fear there, but also anger, a spark that hasn't been snuffed out. Nikali turns to you, his bells jingling softly. "You will judge," he says, and the words hit you like a stone. Judge? You, who can barely decide what to eat for lunch. The crowd murmurs, some nodding, others frowning, as if your presence is a test they didn't expect. Nikali hands you a small obsidian knife, its handle carved with serpents, and gestures to the tlacapetal. "Read the oath," he says. "Decide his fate." You take the knife, its weight cold and unfamiliar, and approach the tablet, your hands shaking. The glyphs are dense, unfamiliar, but you catch fragments. Promises of cacao, of labor, of loyalty, broken by theft or betrayal. The young man, whose name you don't know, stares at you, his jaw tight, his bound hands twitching. You glance at Nikali, hoping for guidance, but his face is stone, his eyes unyielding. The tlacapetal's turquoise inlays gleam, and you swear you hear a whisper, not from the crowd, but from the tablet itself. A voice that speaks of debts unpaid, of gods who demand balance. You think of Paitcatl, the god who heals but also binds, who sees every promise as a thread in the world's fabric. The young man's crime, you gather, was small, a few cacao beans stolen, a vow to his family ignored. But in Tenochtitlan, small sins ripple, angering the gods, unbalancing the cosmos. The crowd waits, their silence heavier than their murmurs, and you feel the knife's edge, sharp enough to cut more than cord. The moral conflict coils around you, tight as the maguey rope. If you judge the young man guilty, you uphold the tlacapetal, honor Paitcatl, and keep the city's order. But his punishment could be harsh, exile, slavery, or worse, a trip to the pyramid steps. If you declare him innocent, you defy Nikali, risk the crowd's wrath, and maybe the gods too, unbalancing a world that's already teetering. You think of your world, your white lies, your "I'll pay you back" promises that fade into nothing. Here, promises are carved in clay, and breaking them is a wound that bleeds beyond the breaker. You could walk away, refuse to judge, but Nikali's bells jingle, a reminder that neutrality isn't an option. A shadow moves at the plaza's edge, a figure cloaked in gray, their face hidden by a hood. They're not part of the crowd, not part of the judgment, but they're watching, their hands clutching a small clay jar painted with glyphs. You catch a glimpse of their eyes, dark, sunken, like someone who's seen the god's verdict and lived to regret it. They slip behind a stall, but their presence lingers, a cold spot in the plaza's heat. Who are they? A mourner, a debtor, or something darker? Something that feeds on the oaths broken here? You want to follow, to demand answers, but Nikali's gaze holds you, and the young man's eyes plead, silent but loud. You kneel beside the tlacapital, the knife heavy in your hand, and trace the glyphs, hoping for clarity. The tablet is warm, almost alive, and the whispers grow louder, speaking of balance, of sacrifice, of debts that bind the living to the dead. The young man shifts, his bound hands trembling, and you see a scar on his wrist, a mark that looks like a glyph, maybe a name. You want to ask him what happened, why he broke his oath, but the crowd's silence is a wall, and Nikali's bells are a warning. You stand, the knife colder now, and face the young man, your heart pounding. Guilty or innocent? Order or mercy? The tlacapital's glyphs seem to shift, forming eyes, a mouth, a face that watches, waits. You open your mouth, but no words come, only a dry rasp. Nikali steps closer, his jade pectoral gleaming, and raises an eyebrow, his bells silent now. The crowd leans in, their breath held, and the young man's eyes lock onto yours, a plea, a challenge, a mirror. You could cut his bonds, declare him free, and face whatever comes. Or you could uphold the oath, hand him to Nikali, and keep the gods' balance. The plaza feels smaller, the sun hotter, the whispers louder. You tighten your grip on the knife, your palms slick with sweat, and the world narrows to this moment, this choice, this plaza where the gods and the dead are far too close. You step back, your sandal catching on a cobblestone, and Nikali's eyes narrow. But he doesn't speak. The young man exhales a small sound, and the crowd murmurs, their voices rising like a tide. You turn, the knife still in your hand, and walk away, the plaza's heat pressing against your back, the tlacapital's whispers following. The streets of Tenochtitlan open before you, their shadows deeper, their sound sharper. You've made a choice, or maybe you haven't, but the knife is heavy, and the young man's eyes are heavier. And you know this city won't let you forget either one. The plaza's heat lingers on your skin as you slip into a quieter corner of Tenochtitlan, where the city's clamor fades to a low hum, and the air grows heavy with the scent of damp clay and blooming cacao flowers. You're in a secluded courtyard, its walls high and smooth, painted with murals of coiled serpents and starry skies that seem to shift as you move. The ground is tiled with turquoise mosaics, their edges worn but gleaming, and at the center stands a single tree, a cacao tree, its pods heavy and red, swaying gently though the air is still. It's twilight, the sky a deep indigo streaked with gold, and the courtyard feels like a secret, a place where the city holds its breath. Your cloak is frayed, your hands still gritty from the dust of choices you'd rather forget, and your heart beats too fast, as if the gods themselves are pacing inside your chest. A soft clink breaks the silence, like beads against stone, and you turn, your sandals scraping the tiles. A figure sits cross-legged beneath the cacao tree, their back to you, their hands busy with something you can't see. They're cloaked in a mantle of woven feathers, green and black, shimmering like a beetle's shell, and their hair is braided with thin strips of gold that catch the fading light. The clinking comes again, rhythmic, deliberate, and you step closer, drawn despite the prickle of unease on your skin. The figure doesn't turn, but their voice, low, melodic, with a bite of amusement, cuts through the courtyard. "You're late," they say, as if they've been expecting you, as if you had an appointment in this hidden place. You hesitate, your throat dry, and edge around the tree to face them. It's a woman, her face sharp and ageless, her eyes dark and glittering like polished obsidian. She's stringing beads, jade, turquoise, and bone, onto a cord, each one clicking as it slides into place. Her name, she tells you with a smirk, is Citlali, star, a name that feels too bright for the shadows she casts. She's a jeweler, or so she claims, but the way her fingers move, precise and reverent, suggests she's crafting more than ornaments. "Sit," she says, nodding to a reed mat beside her, and you obey, sinking onto the cool tiles, the scent of cacao pods sharp in your nose. Back home, you'd scroll past someone like her, maybe like their Etsy shop, and move on. Here, there's no scrolling away. Her eyes hold you, and the beads in her hands feel like secrets. Citlali lifts her work, a necklace half finished, its beads arranged in a pattern that mimics the stars above. "This is a chalchihuitl," she says, her voice softening, almost wistful. "A map of the heavens, a gift for Tonatiuh. You know Tonatiuh, the sun god. His altar's red with the blood of those who feed his journey across the sky. The chalchihuitl is no mere trinket. It's a sacred adornment, worn by priests or offered to the gods. Its beads a prayer for light, for life, for the sun's return. Each bead, Citlali explains, holds a story, a birth, a death, a vow. And stringing them is an act of balance, a way to keep the cosmos from unraveling. You lean closer, mesmerized by the beads' glow, but her hand snaps shut, hiding them. "Careful," she says, her smirk returning. "The gods don't share lightly." You pull back, your cheeks warm, and notice a small clay bowl beside her, filled with cacao beans, their surfaces polished to a sheen. They're not for eating, you realize, but for offering, scattered around the tree's roots, as a tribute to Tonatiuh. The cacao pods above seem to hum, their red shells brighter in the twilight, and you swear the tree is watching, its branches swaying without wind. Citlali follows your gaze and laughs, a sound like breaking glass. "He's hungry," she says, nodding to the tree. "Always hungry." You think of Tonatiuh, his golden face, his endless appetite, and wonder if the tree is more than a tree, if it's a conduit, a mouth for the god's demands. Citlali resumes her work, the beads clinking, but her eyes flick to you, sharp and searching. "You could help," she says, holding out a single jade bead, its surface carved with a tiny sun. "String it. Make it yours." Your hand hovers, trembling. The bead is beautiful, but it feels heavy, like a promise you're not ready to keep. To take it is to join Citlali's ritual, to weave yourself into Tonatiuh's story, to offer something to a god who might ask for more than beads. To refuse is to stay apart, to keep your hands clean, but it's also to reject Citlali, to walk away from a moment that feels like a hinge in the world's turning. You think of your world, your half-hearted commitments, the way you ghost emails when they demand too much. Here, ghosting is an option. The gods don't read scene and move on. A shadow moves along the courtyard wall, a figure cloaked in gray, their face hidden by a hood. They're not part of the ritual, not part of the courtyard stillness, but they're watching, their hands clutching a small obsidian mirror that glints in the twilight. You catch a glimpse of their reflection, not their face, but something else, a shape that twists and vanishes. The figure slips behind the wall, but their presence lingers, a cold spot in the courtyard's warmth. Who are they? A priest, a spy, or something darker? Something that collects the offerings left to Tona to you? You want to follow, to demand answers, but Citlali's beads clink, pulling you back, and her eyes are a warning: focus or pay a price. The moral conflict wraps around you, tight as the cord in Citlali's hands. If you take the bead, you're binding yourself to Tonatiuh, to the sun, to a ritual that might demand more than you can give: your time, your faith, your blood. It's a choice that feels like signing your name in a book you can't close. If you refuse, you're keeping your distance, staying safe, but you're also dismissing Citlali's work, her devotion, the delicate balance she's weaving. You think of a young man in the plaza, his bound hands, his defiant eyes, and wonder if every choice here is a debt, a weight you'll carry into Mictlan. And what of the figure with the mirror? Are they a threat, a witness, or a reminder that the gods see everything, even your hesitation? Citlali's fingers pause, the bead silent, and she leans closer, her breath warm with cacao and herbs. You're afraid, she says, not mocking, but stating a fact, like she's read your pulse. Good. Fear means you're listening. She holds out the jade bead again, its sun glyph glowing, and the cacao tree seems to lean closer, its pods heavier, their hum louder. You hear a sound, a low rhythmic chant, not Citlali's, not yours, but coming from the shadows where the figure vanished. It's faint, almost drowned by the city's distant drums, but it's there, weaving through the courtyard like a thread. Your heart races, your mouth dry. You could take the bead, string it, and feel Tonatiuh's gaze, his hunger. Or you could stand, walk away, and carry the weight of your refusal, knowing you've seen the sun's map but refuse to mark it. Citlali's eyes narrow, but she doesn't push, her fingers resuming their work, the beads clinking again. The cacao beans in the bowl gleam, and you swear they move, shifting like eyes in the twilight. You stand, your legs unsteady, and back toward the courtyard's gate, the murals, serpents watching, their starry skies closing in. Citlali doesn't look up, but her voice follows you, sharp and clear. The sun sees you, she says, whether you see him or not. You step through the gate, the tiles giving way to cobblestones, the courtyard's stillness swallowed by the city's pulse. The chant lingers, faint but persistent, mingling with the rustle of cacao pods, the clink of beads, the weight of a bead you didn't take. The streets of Tenochtitlan curve ahead, their shadows deeper, their sounds sharper, and you feel the sun's gaze on your back, burning through the twilight, pulling you deeper into a city where the gods and the dead are never far away. The courtyard serpent murals are a fading echo as you find yourself in a new corner of Tenochtitlan, where the city's pulse slows to a whisper, and the air grows thick with the scent of whetstone and crushed herbs. You're standing on a low bridge, its planks worn smooth by countless feet, spanning a canal that glints like polished obsidian under the moon's pale glow. The water is still, almost too still, reflecting the stars above in a way that makes you dizzy, as if the sky is below you, pulling you down. Your cloak is damp, clinging to your skin, and your hands are stained with traces of dust and sap from places you wandered but can't name. The night is heavy, the kind of heavy that presses on your chest, and you feel the city watching, its gods and shadows closer than ever. A soft hum drifts across the canal, not a song, but a vibration, like the earth itself is murmuring. You lean over the bridge's edge, squinting into the dark, and see a figure on the opposite bank, crouched low, their silhouette sharp against the moonlight. They're working with something, a bundle of reeds, maybe, or cloth, their hands moving with a quiet precision that feels ritualistic, sacred. You step off the bridge, your sandals silent on the damp stone, and cross to the other side, drawn by the hum, by the figure's focus. As you approach, the air shifts, cooler, laced with the sharp tang of sage and the faint, metallic bite of blood. The figure doesn't look up, but you feel their awareness, like a cat sensing a mouse. It's a man older than you expected. His face lined with age, but his eyes bright, almost luminous, like stars caught in a net. His hair is bound with a cord of woven reeds, and his cloak is patched, its colors faded but still vibrant, turquoise, red ochre. He's weaving, you realize, his fingers threading reeds into a small, intricate mat, its patterns forming glyphs you don't recognize but feel, like a language your bones understand. His name, he tells you, without looking up, is Estli, blood, a name that sends a shiver through you. He's a mat weaver, but not the kind who sells in the marketplace. His mats are for the dead, for the altars, for the gods who guard the paths to Mictlan. You're not lost, he says, his voice low, gravelly, with a trace of amusement. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You kneel beside him, the canal's edge cold against your knees, and watch his hands move, the reeds bending under his touch. The mat is small, no bigger than a book, but its glyphs are dense, telling a story of rivers and jaguars, of souls crossing the underworld's trials. Estli pauses, picking up a small clay vessel from the ground, its surface painted with a single stark image, a black butterfly, its wings spread wide. The papalotl, he says, holding the vessel out to you, the guide of souls. You know the butterfly as a symbol of its papalotl, the obsidian butterfly goddess, her wings sharp as blades, her hunger as vast as the night. The papalotl is more than art. It's a beacon, a charm woven into mats or burned as an offering to light the dead's way through Mictlan's darkness. You take the vessel, its clay cool and heavy, and feel a pulse, not yours, not Estli's, but something deeper, like the canal itself is breathing. The butterfly's eyes, painted with white dots, seem to watch you, and you swear they blink, a trick of the moonlight or something worse. Hold it, Estli says, his voice softer now, almost a whisper. Feel her. Your fingers tighten, and the hum grows louder, vibrating in your chest. Back home, you'd laugh this off, call it prop, maybe post a pic with a filter and a witty caption. Here, there's no filter, no caption, just the butterfly, the mat, and Estli's eyes, which see too much. The dead need her, he says, nodding to the mat. But the living need her more. You set the vessel down, your hand shaking, and notice a shadow moving across the canal, a figure cloaked in black, their face hidden by a mask of woven straw. They're not on the bank, not in the water, but somehow between, their reflection rippling in the canal's surface, distorted, wrong. They carry a bundle of reeds, but they're not weaving, they're burning them. The smoke curling upward in shapes that mimic the butterfly's wings. The figure's mask tilts toward you, and you feel a chill, as if they've marked you, as if they know your fears. They vanish into the dark, but their smoke lingers, sharp and bitter, mingling with the sage and blood. Estli resumes weaving, the reeds whispering under his fingers, but his eyes flick to you, sharp and searching. You could weave, he says, offering you a handful of reeds, their edges rough against your palm. For the dead, for her. He nods to the vessel, to the butterfly, and you feel its papalotl's presence, her wings brushing the edges of your mind. To take the reeds, to weave the mat, is to join Estli's ritual, to guide a soul you've never met, to bind yourself to a goddess whose love is as cruel as her blades. To refuse is to stay apart, to keep your hands clean, but it's also to reject Estli, to dismiss the dead who wait for the butterfly's light. You think of your world, your half-hearted gestures, the way you dodge calls when they demand too much. Here, dodging isn't an option. The gods don't take maybe later for an answer. The moral conflict wraps around you, tight as the reeds in Estli's hands. If you weave, you're stepping into Miklin's shadow, offering a piece of yourself to its spapalotl, to a ritual that might pull you closer to the underworld than you're ready to go. It's a choice that feels like signing a lease with no exit clause. If you refuse, you're keeping your distance, staying safe, but you're also turning your back on the dead, on Estli's quiet faith, on a chance to ease a soul's journey. You think of the choices you've faced in this city, the weight of eyes and oaths, and wonder if every step here is a trap, a debt you'll pay in blood or regret. And what of the figure across the canal? Were they a warning, a rival, or something darker? Something that burns offerings for reasons you can't name? Estli's fingers pause, the mat half finished, and he leans closer, his breath warm with herbs and earth. You're scared, he says, not mocking, but stating a fact, like he's read your pulse. Good. The butterfly doesn't guide cowards. He holds out the reeds again, their tips stained with something dark, blood, maybe, or dye, and the canal seems to hum louder, its water rippling though the air is still. You hear a sound, a soft, rhythmic chant, not Estli's, not yours, but coming from the dark where the figure vanished. It's faint, almost drowned by the city's distant drums, but it's there, weaving through the night like a thread. Your heart races, your mouth dry. You could take the reeds, weave the mat, and feel its spapalotl's wings, her hunger. Or you could stand, walk away, and carry the weight of your refusal, knowing you've seen the butterfly, but refuse to guide her. Estli's eyes soften, but he doesn't push, his fingers resuming their work, the reeds whispering again. The papalotl vessel gleams, its butterfly eyes brighter, and you swear they move, tracking you as you shift. You stand, your legs unsteady, and back toward the bridge, the canal's water watching, its ripples forming shapes, wings, claws, eyes. Estli doesn't look up, but his voice follows you, calm and clear. The dead see you, he says, whether you see them or not. You cross the bridge, the planks creaking underfoot, the canal's hum fading but not gone. The streets of Tenochtitlan open before you, their shadows deeper, their sound sharper, and you feel the butterfly's gaze on your back, cutting through the moonlight, pulling you deeper into a city where the gods and the dead are never far away. The canal's dark mirror is a distant shimmer as you find yourself in the heart of Tenochtitlan, not the plaza or the pyramid, but a place more primal, more final. A vast, sunken arena carved into the city's bones, its walls blackened by fire and time. The air is heavy with the stench of ash and sweat, cut by the sharp, sweet burn of copal incense that coils upward like a serpent. It's neither day nor night, but a strange in-between. The sky is sickly green, streaked with clouds that pulse like veins. Your cloak is tattered, soaked with the city's damp breath, and your hands are raw, as if you've been clawing at truths you weren't meant to touch. The arena is alive with sound, a low guttural chant, the thud of bare feet on packed earth, the clatter of bone against stone. You're not alone here, but you wish you were, because the eyes that watch you aren't human, not entirely. The arena's floor is a mosaic of skulls, their jaws gaping, their sockets filled with obsidian chips that glint like stars. At its center stands a platform, not an altar, but a stage, its surface etched with glyphs that bleed red in the strange light. A figure waits there, tall and gaunt, their body wrapped in a cloak of flayed skin, its edges crusted with salt. Their face is hidden by a mask of polished bone, carved with the snarling maw of Zyptotek, the flayed lord, god of renewal and sacrifice. The mask's eyes are slits, but you feel their gaze, cold and unyielding, like a spreadsheet that knows your every mistake. They hold a staff topped with a human skull, its teeth strung with jade beads that rattle as they move. The crowd around the arena, warriors, priests, commoners, chants louder, their voices a tide that pulls you toward the platform, your sandals slipping on the skull-strewn ground. The figure raises a hand, and the chant dies, leaving only the hiss of burning copal and your own ragged breath. You, they say, their voice a rasp, like wind over dry bones. You've walked our paths, seen our gods, carried our debts. Now you stand before Zyptotek. They step closer, the skull staff rattling, and you catch their name whispered by the crowd. Tlacatl, the Flayer, a high priest who serves the god by peeling away lies, flesh, and fear. You want to run, to dive into the crowd and lose yourself in their sweat and fervor, but your feet are rooted, and the arena feels like a trap that's been waiting for you since you first stepped into this city. Tlacatl points to the platform, where a single object rests, a flayed pelt, not animal but human, its surface painted with glyphs of maize and blood. It is a pili, a sacred garment worn by priests to embody Zyptotek, to shed their old selves and become something new. The pelt is fresh, glistening, and you gag at the sight, the smell, the truth of what it is. This is the final step, Tlacatl says, their masked face tilting, as if amused. Wear it and join us. Become the flayed Lord's voice. Refuse, and you are nothing, just meat for Miklin's jaws. The crowd roars, a sound that shakes the arena, and you realize this isn't just a choice, it's a spectacle, a test for the god's entertainment. You climb the platform, your legs trembling, the skulls beneath your feet crunching like gravel. The Zapili lies before you, its glyphs pulsing, its scent overwhelming, blood, salt, and something deeper, like the earth's own rot. You think of your world, your cubicle, your endless scroll through notifications that mean nothing. There, you could ignore a challenge, mute a call, walk away. Here, there's no mute button, no escape key. The Zapili is a promise, a curse, a door to a life where you're no longer you, but a vessel for Zyptotek's will. To where it is to shed your doubts, your fears, your humanity, and become part of Tenochtitlan's endless cycle of death and renewal. To refuse is to reject the gods, the city, the crowd, and face Miklin's trials alone, a soul with no guide, no hope. Tlacatl steps closer, their staff's beads clattering, and leans in, their mask's slits glinting. You've seen why we fear the afterlife, they say, their voice low, almost intimate. The rivers, the winds, the jaguars, they're not stories. They're real, and they're waiting. You know they're right. You felt Miklin's breath in every shadow, every choice, every moment you've stood on the edge of this world's truths. Surviving here isn't about living. It's about enduring, about carrying the weight of gods who demand blood, of dead who demand guidance, of a city that chews up souls and spits out bones. You understand now why survival feels impossible, because Tenochtitlan doesn't want survivors. It wants devotees, or it wants nothing. A shadow moves at the arena's edge, a figure cloaked in black feathers, their face hidden by a veil of woven thorns. They're not chanting, not cheering, but watching, their hands clutching a small clay dog, its eyes painted with ochre, its teeth bared. You've seen dogs like this before, buried with the dead, to guide them through Miklin. But this one feels different, alive, its eyes locked on you. The figure's veil shifts, revealing a glimpse of their face, not human, not quite, but a mask of scars and bone. They vanish into the crowd, but their dog remains, a spectral shape that lingers in your vision, a reminder of the underworld's nearness. The moral conflict is a blade, cutting through your core. To where the Zapili is to surrender, to become Totec's voice, to live as a priest in a city that thrives on sacrifice. It's a life, but not yours, a life of blood, of flayed skin, of gods who never sleep. To refuse is to choose Miklin, to face the afterlife's trials now alone, with no dog, no butterfly, no feather to guide you. You think of every choice you've dodged in this city, every moment you walked away, and realize this is the final one, the one that defines you. The crowd's roar is deafening, Tlacatol's mask is unyielding, and the Zapili's glyphs seem to writhe, forming your name, your face, your fear. You reach for the pelt, your hand shaking, and feel its weight, its warmth, as if it's still alive. The crowd holds its breath, and Tlacatol's staff goes silent, the beads frozen. You could drape it over your shoulders, feel Totec's power, become part of this world's brutal renewal. But your fingers falter, and you see it, the clay dog, not at the arena's edge but beside you, its ochre eyes glowing, its teeth bared not at you, but at the pelt. You drop the Zapili, its glyphs fading, and step back, your heart pounding. No. You say, the word a whisper, then a shout. No, the crowd gasps, Tlacatol's mask tilts, and the arena trembles, as if the gods themselves are stirring. Tlacatol raises their staff, and the crowd surges, their hands reaching, their voices a storm. You run, your sandals slipping, the skulls cracking underfoot. The arena's walls loom, but you find a gap, a crack in the stone, and squeeze through, the city's streets swallowing you. You run until the arena's roar is a memory, until the air is just air, not ash and blood. You collapse in an alley, your breath ragged, your hands empty. You've chosen Miklin, chosen to face its trials alone, and you know why survival here is impossible. Because Tenochtitlan demands everything, and you've given nothing but refusal. The clay dog's eyes linger in your mind, a guide you didn't earn, a hope you don't deserve. You lean against the wall, the city's pulse faint but unrelenting, and close your eyes. The gods are still watching, the dead are still waiting, and Miklin is closer than ever. You've made your choice, and it's not freedom. It's a debt, one you'll pay in the underworld's dark. Sleep well tonight, my friend, if you can. If you hear a rustle, a growl, a rattle of beads under your bed, well, it might just be Totec, checking if you've changed your mind.